What's going on, collectors? And in this episode, oh my god, it's Halloween! Haha! Boo! I can't see or breathe really well through that mask. So, this is the Halloween episode. So, all I'm really going to do is talk about a few different horror books. Of course, if you like what you see, hit like and subscribe down below. And yeah, we're going to tackle my wall. So I've changed up a few different books, and I'm going to do a big change of the wall. I'm going to be taking down these books, talking about them, then putting up new books, which I'm not going to go into great detail of. When I change the wall out, I'll make a video about that. But it's all horror based, and some of my favorite horror books and covers are up on this wall. So let's go through some of them. So without further ado, let's just get some of the modern ones out of the way. So this guy here, this is Legion of Monsters #1, and this is from 2011. And Dennis Hopeless wrote this. This is a 4-part miniseries. And I didn't know at the time when this got released that the Legion of Monsters was only a one-shot comic back in the mid-70s. And it didn't involve these guys at all. So this Legion of Monsters, well, Memphibian is in there from the original series. But then we have Morbius, which was Dracula at the time, Frankenstein's monster, and somebody else, I'm sure. But we have The Living Mummy, we have Werewolf by Night, and then we have Elsa Bloodstone in there as well. And just the story is that the monsters are going to get wiped out. There's going to be a huge monster catastrophe if they don't stop the bad guys from doing. Anyway, it's a funny book. It is awesome. It is only 4 issues, and if you can get these, as I know this book here shot up when the Werewolf by Night Disney movie, or Disney TV series, one-shot movie, I guess it was a movie, came out. This is such a good little series, and Legion of Monsters really has been left untouched since then. I got all 4 issues of it, and each one of them was such a great read. So I strongly recommend, if not just because it's Halloween and it's a good horror story, but because it's just so well written. The characters are they're funny. It's very cleverly pieced together. The artwork's great too. The artwork, Doe, I think it's Juan Doe is the artist. If I'm wrong, I'll just put it down below there. So would strongly recommend this book here. Next up on my wall is another modern book. This is the mini series of Infernal Man-Thing. This cover here is done by Art Adams. This was Steve Gerber's last story of Man-Thing. So this was released in 2012. Steve Gerber passed away in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a 3-part miniseries, just kind of his last story that got uncovered, and Marvel wanted to publish it. And it was also a great read. The artwork is great with it too. But you know, if you're a Man-Thing fan, I am. I got right here, Essential Man-Thing. If you guys don't have this book here, like this is volume 1 of it, but this really covers what and who Man-Thing is. And if you don't have this, I mean, you should pick this up. This is just such a great, the whole understanding of Man-Thing's in there. Would strongly recommend just at least grabbing volume 1 of that. But this is just a beautiful end to Gerber's run of what Man-Thing is. And yeah, I miss Steve Gerber's writing. He's a very interesting character and had very interesting stories, and Man-Thing is one of those very awesome characters of his creation. So next up, these other books I have talked about in the past. Well, most of them have. I'll go right to the bottom here. This is one I picked up relatively recently. This is Ghost number 30 by DC, and by I picked up, I mean it was gifted to me by buddy of mine, and it was just cheap. He knew I liked horror stories, and this cover is just stunning. The artist for this is Nick, I have it written down here, it is Nick Cardy. So this story is actually from October of 1974, so released in Halloween times of the 70s, and just the idea of this kid here, or young man, getting launched out of the train and everybody watching is all dead. I mean, the cover itself, you can see it's pretty chewed up and beat up, but it is just a really cool, supernatural, violent, in a way, cover. This is horror. This is what, when I look for horror, this is really the beauty of it. That the idea that this guy's dead. He's dead, and he's enjoying everybody else in the train. I don't know. It's just a cool skull cover, cool ghosts, cool skeletons. Yeah. Great book to have. Next up, I'm actually going to jump to the other side of the wall here. And I mean, I could have probably talked about my journey into mystery number 63 up there, but I'm not. So, too bad. I would like to show off this new book in my collection. Oh my goodness. There we go. Ugh. Weird Science number 17. And I would like to thank Keith from Keith's Days of Future Past off of Instagram. He's a fellow Canadian knucklehead who got this book. He found this book, which I have called the Fruit Box Collection. His brother back in the day bought a bunch of comic books in a fruit box at like a garage sale or something like that. Keith can correct me in the comments if he pops in. This book was in that package there, and this is a Wally Wood cover of EC's Weird Science. And I mean, just typical Wood. You have the attractive looking ladies and the very attention to detail creatures and aliens and ships, and I wish that could focus better, a little bit better. There we go, kind of, sort of. So this is, interestingly enough, though, the Canadian edition. And so when Keith mentioned he had this book and posted on Instagram and said he was looking to sell it, I was excited about it. So I was like, hey Keith, let's talk about it. And he found that on the back of it was a different cover. So usually there's one type of ad, but the Canadian version, I think it was a screwdriver ad. I mean, I can take a look at it, but so this was the Canadian edition. And so, long story short, everybody, in the 40s, really, because of World War II, Canada prevented a lot of imports from the U.S. just to keep the war machine running. The things that were not important didn't get imported or exported to and from the countries. Comic books were one of those imports that did not happen. And what ended up happening, though, is that EC, who originally published this, and this is published technically by EC, but it's actually printed by Superior Comics in Canada. So because they couldn't import books, Superior was like, hey, give us licensing and we'll print them. And that's what ended up happening with this here. And so this is an EC book with published by Superior, and they don't say it on this cover, but I do know that there are a ton of EC books that say Superior instead of EC on it. So I think this may have been before the cutoff of them doing it. But this is just a really awesome horror book. And this is from the 50s, of course. Yeah, the cover is detached on one staple. Like, it is a pretty beat up book. Keith and I spent a lot of time trying to find out more detail and information about the Superior runs of EC, and there really isn't much information. So in a way, this is a rare book, but I also understand, or from my understanding of researching, that Canadian reprints aren't that much more in value than the EC or American versions, even though they technically are rare if you're an American collector. So there's a lot of ambiguity with this type of series of books, and I find that very fascinating. And so in a way, this is a little bit of Canadiana. So this is a really cool book, and I mean, it's a Wallace Wood cover, and everybody should love Wallace Wood artwork. So Weird Science. Next, just continue with some Man-Thing. I picked this up at my LCS, the one I mentioned this in a previous video, but this is one of the 300,000 comics found in the basement. This is Giant Size Man-Thing number 1. This is a Mike Ploog cover, and it is Man-Thing versus the Glob, not Blob. Too much X-Men around here. It is one Man-Thing story, and then the other, there's 4 backup stories, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 backup stories, and they're all just the Atlas era horror monster stories. But I just love this cover, Man-Thing fighting the Glob. And this book itself I'd say it's probably like a 7 to an 8, like within that range. The spine itself is a little Ripley, not from Aliens Ripley, but it's a little Ripley. And then there's the stamp on the top, and it looks like somebody actually tried to erase it, which is a little frustrating because I love the date stamps. And so that 2 there, you'll see it's a little faded, and it looks like somebody actually tried to go over it with an eraser, which is just asinine, but c'est la vie. He's one of my favorite anti-heroes next to the Hulk. This, again, awesome Ploog cover. This is from the 70s as well. So we're getting into the final cool ones here. I'll save all the EC and Harvey ones shortly, but Toxic Avenger number 1 by Marvel. So this guy here is Toxic Avenger.
The Toxic Avenger. His face is so terrifying. We can't show it to you now. You'll have to see the movie for yourself. The Toxic Avenger can bend steel with his bare hands.
No, we're only kidding. Get it?
Leap small cars in a single bound. He crushes drug pushers.
I mean, the 80s with trauma films. I mentioned that I brought this book up in the Vinny's Garage video I did a little while ago. And this was in that mystery box. And I've always been a fan of Toxie. And I know I grew up with... Not Toxic Crusaders was the cartoon series in the 90s. Which was the children's version of this very violent trauma film. And Trauma, if you're not familiar, is the name of the company that made the movies, or Troma, Troma. So to have this book and just the awesome artwork, and just it was a 12 issue or 12 to 13 issue series. It didn't do too well, but it's just really in the 80s they were making comic books of everything, like Indiana Jones, Blade Runner, Transformers. Well, Transformers kind of got to start with Marvel. I digress. So just really cool, high quality grade of the Toxic Avenger, and I love me some Toxie here. So just like even the snot coming out of his nose, like you just had to. Is this the cover and the creature wasn't grotesque enough? Let's just have a little bit of snot come out of his nose. Just great stuff. The first superhero from New Jersey. Oh my grail. Oh my grail. As you may have known, I have talked about this book in great lengths. My Tomb of Terror number 13. This is one of my, I would say, my top 3 Golden Age grails ever. The cover's by Lee Elias, and the reason why I love this book so much is I'm a big fan of science fiction and obviously horror, and I have always linked this cover to the movie Alien. I prefer Alien over Aliens, and this cover here is just... I think it encompasses science fiction horror perfectly, and most of the issues of this run were just general horror, you know, zombies, creatures, heads, explosions, of course, skeletons and whatnot. But this is the only science fiction cover of that run, and really one of the few science fiction horror covers that I am familiar with. But I loved this one so much because of how frightening it actually is when you really take in what's happening. And so, like, if you look at the spacesuits there, they're starting to come apart because the explosions of this on this side here is now disintegrating the suits. And just think of just the fear of what these guys are feeling watching it in their suits disintegrate. They're in space. They're just doomed, right? And so this book is just so highly detailed. It is so pure in its horror. Nobody wants to die out in space and alone in space, but here we are, that's happening. And this book too also is the variant cover. There's only one variant, or yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the only variant cover of this entire run. So most of the Tomb of Terrors have the outline here. You'll see there's zebra stripes here. Most of the other ones are just a general outline, so it's a solid color. There is a version of this book that has just the solid white around the edge, but this here has a zebra stripe on it, which I don't know why they did that, but this is the variant of the book. So it's not only the Golden Age Grail I've wanted, but it's also the rarer variant cover of the book. So this has just been such a joy to have. I loved having it up on my wall. I'm probably going to find another place to put it as well, because I just could stare at this thing all day. So Tomb of Terror, number 13. Yeah, this is one of my torn up covers. Haunt of Fear. This is number 5. It's a pretty early issue of the run. So this is one of the first issues where they have the Vault Keeper, Crypt Keeper all on the side there. And yeah, the cover is tattered, but that's really the worst part of it. The staples are still intact for the whole book. The whole book's in great condition. It's just the cover is chewed up, and that's the unfortunate part. The back is fine, but this Haunt of Fear number 5 is one of the earliest EC horror books, and I'll read the cover here. Oh, what a mess. But they'll never think of looking for a fresh corpse in the coffin of a man who died in 1867. There's no laughing there. I did that. And this is a Johnny Craig cover. And this and the next 2 books are all Johnny Craig covers, because everybody knows my love for Johnny Craig. If you don't, I love Johnny Craig covers. And there's not much to say about this one outside of that. I just love, well, I mean, with Johnny Craig, and I'm saying it with the rest of them. It's the horror, the before and the after. Either Craig does amazing artwork that is about the before the violence happens or after the violence happens, and this is one of those before things. So we know that the guy's dug up a body. We know that he's going to be throwing a body in there, and because you see there's the corpse there on the side. It's just one of those great in-between covers. So I just love the attention to detail on it as well. Like, it is raining. There's a lot of stripes going along the background there. It's just such a cleverly drawn cover. And yeah, one day I'll own every book Johnny Craig ever worked on. Well, that's not going to be anytime soon, and I think I would be bankrupt if I did. Let's go with The Vault of Horror, number 31. And this is my first horror book that I really got for the Golden Age. This is really one of my first Golden Age books, next to like Classics Illustrated and some other, not cool books in my opinion. So this Vault of Horror is one that you'll see in my intro video, which I plan on doing a new one soon with. But this guy here is, this was my first Johnny Craig cover as well. And this is, again, that action before or after. And this is definitely the action, somewhat ambiguous as well, because we got this man in the street bleeding out who's been bludgeoned. And you don't know if the guy who has this mallet here, or sledgehammer, is about to do it again. He's got the crazed eyes. It's raining outside. I guess Johnny Craig likes raining covers. And you don't know what's going to happen next. And this really is the one that was like, wow, I can't believe I own some sort of horror comic book of this quality. Now, the cover on this book is detached as well, but it does have glue holding it together. So while the staples you'll see, it looks like they're all intact there. They are actually, that glare from the light above. There was a thin strip of super glue holding the front cover together, so I bought it with that pretense, and you know what, it still looks great. I mean, this book here, if it wasn't for the spine that is stripped, like, this is easily a 5, easily. So just gorgeous cover by Johnny Craig. And speaking of Johnny Craig, let's get to the last one, shall we? So that was Vault of Horror number 31. This is number 32, and I just talked about this in a recent video, so I'm not going to go too crazy on this again. But again, Nate from Hollywood Comics brought up and I mentioned it in that previous video too. But this book here is one of the edited or censored covers from the Vault of Horror series. So there was a Tales from the Crypt that was censored, and this is another censored book. And you'll notice that that little shine there on the light, or on the guy's head, there used to be a meat cleaver in there. So that got edited out, and in the reprint in the 90s, which Nate from Hollywood showed me, is that the meat cleaver was left in. So funny enough that this is pre-code, but the meat cleaver was removed, and then when the code was in effect, in the 90s anyway, the meat cleaver was put back in. Just wild how that all works out. And Johnny Craig, I mean, this was clearly before the horror is beginning, but the horror is definitely in your face. There's the dead man coming towards you. Just a great cover. I absolutely love the colors on this. I love how cool it looks. It is really I just love zombies, and this is a zombie cover too. Like, it's awesome. I just love this book, and yeah, that's my big horror books here that I want to show you from the wall. But we're going to repopulate the wall. And so my train of thought with this was that, we're getting into, it's the end of October now, and we're getting into November. November rain. November rain, you think of Guns N' Roses. Think of people who go to Guns N' Roses concerts now. They're usually old people. And what's older than dinosaurs, I've seen Guns N' Roses in concert, by the way, so it's not like a shot against everybody. I'm just trying to think of a really poor segue to put dinosaurs on my wall. So we have a bunch of dinosaur books that are going to go up here, and I'm going to show you guys what they are, and I'll probably reorganize these books as we after the video here. But there's a Boris Karloff one with a dinosaur book, or dinosaur creature. We have, and if you've never read any modern Godzilla books, you need to. And this is one of 2 you need to read. This is Rage Across Time, Godzilla. And the artwork on these books is phenomenal, both exterior and interior books. Let's go with the other Godzilla book. This one actually is my favorite run, Godzilla in Hell. Absolutely stunning cover, absolutely stunning series. I think it's a 5-issue. It doesn't say on here. I think it's a 5-issue series on this. Really cool story and artwork. So Godzilla in Hell. We're going to throw some X-Men up there. Uncanny X-Men number 354, because you can't have dinosaurs without Sauron. I wanted to not entirely have it full dinosaur-like. Like, you think of... Well, this is my segue to this, so let's just do that first. Cadillacs and dinosaurs. Hell yeah. We'll get into this when I start reviewing this. So there's Cadillacs and dinosaurs. The Cadillacs and dinosaurs originated in Xenozoic Tales, was the original series of it. And Xenozoic Tales reminds me of Xenomorph. So the idea of... Well, it's alien. Here's our lovely Xenomorph. And yeah, no, this isn't a dinosaur. This is the one I'm going to kind of give the caveat for. This book here, the reason why I'm putting this up on the wall, I'm going to describe this now, is when my child was born, I was like, I have to buy a comic book the week they were born. Like that, I had to get a comic book that was released that week. This was the book that was released. And I'm a big fan of Alien, as I have mentioned, but also how topical was this cover getting released. This is the variant cover. There is a Xenomorph over top of a crib. And I was like, told my wife, hey, yeah, I'm really happy our child is born, but check out this awesome cover that involves a Xenomorph over a crib. You know? It really cool. So that's going on the wall too. Not a dinosaur, kinda. Xenozoic Tales. You guys see my segue. Marvel Fanfare number 1. So after the X-Men series, we had the X-Men doing a variety of different things, and in Marvel Fanfare, we have the X-Men going to the Savage Land along with Spider-Man. And I think this was Spider-Man's first time jumping into the Savage Land too. So yeah, Marvel Fanfare number 1. Speaking of old dinosaurs, Grog. There we are. This is Strange Tales number 83. So Grog is one of the more prehistoric, I mean, arguably he's a dragon. Dragons are arguably dinosaurs. I mean, dragons don't exist, but they're based off dinosaurs. So we're going to have that Strange Tales go up on the wall here. And my last 2 books, I'm just going to show both of them. We got the first and second appearance of Sauron. We're going old school X-Men here. X-Men number 60 and 61. So there is the first appearance of Sauron with number 60. And number 61 there being a second appearance. And those are both going up here on the wall. So, there we be. I will go through these books when the time is appropriate. But we're just going to leave them up here on the wall in the meantime. So, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you guys have a great Halloween. If you like what you see, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Leave some comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. And stay spooky.